Hello and welcome into this week's edition of Intercollegiate Conversations.
So just first, just broadly, vaguely, you started, you played college football. Right now, you're at the athletic director at NDSU. So just take me from that point A to point B. I know you've had a long career, but as succinctly as possible. I mean, how did you go from the college athlete to working in college athletics to now being an athletic director there at NDSU?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think when I look back, when I went to college originally, athletic administration, while it was a thing, it really wasn't as mainstream as it is today. And so as an undergrad at Stoney Brook University, where I played football, as you mentioned, didn't even know that this was a career, to be honest with you. And so I was a biology major at Stoney Brook. But during my time as a student athlete and as a student, got a chance to work in the athletic department and really kind of opened my eyes to, yeah, there is a profession here. There's a number of departments within the athletic department, and something that I just saw myself being really passionate about, and particularly at my alma mater, had a chance to impact Stoney Brook in a really positive way early on. And so when I was done with my playing career, had an opportunity to be a graduate assistant at Stoney Brook, and I was coaching football, but I was also working in our athletic facilities office, and it was an unbelievable experience, kind of real first intro, but really kind of taught me two things. One, I didn't want to be a coach. And again, a ton of appreciation for what they do and the jobs that they do. But it just, in terms of my skill set, I wanted to have probably a greater impact on the department versus just one particular sport. And so really went the administrative path and got unbelievable opportunities at Stoney Brook. Went from a graduate assistant essentially up to a senior associate AD over the course of an 18-year career. And, with growing responsibilities, and really learned and understood what it meant to run an athletic department, all the moving parts that go into running an athletic department, a successful athletic department. And, I think early on in my career, I wanted to be an AD, but I realized really early too, I didn't know what I didn't know. And the experience I got at Stoney Brook, where really just being able to be immersed and involved in a lot of different things, I think really helped prepare me. So when I did get to a point in my career where I thought I was ready to take a run at an AD job, that at least I was prepared to lead an organization. And, the opportunity at NDSU came along back in the summer of 2014. And I'd been to Fargo once before and just blown away by the level of success, the level of community, fan base support. And that goes across the state and really upper Midwest. And so when the opportunity came along, just to be able to come in here and build upon some of the tradition success, still a relatively new Division I program at the time, but had come off 3 straight FCS national championships and some other broad-based experience. But just thought it was a great, really next step in my career. And so that was 10 years ago almost. And haven't looked back, and probably one of the best decisions I've made in my career after leaving your alma mater, to be at a place where people genuinely care. And they understand you need to invest to continue to be successful in this industry. So it's been an unbelievable place. My kids have grown up here in Fargo. It's a great community, great university, and so, like I said, haven't looked back.
I'll follow up on NDSU specifically and you making that move. But first, I do want to go back to the beginning, and you kind of touched on it. But what was the process like for you starting out to get specifically into that athletic department or into the athletic side? Because I always tell people in broadcasting, like the first job to get's the toughest. Then once you get that foot in the door, it can open up other doors. So what was that process exactly like for you to get started there?
One of the best things that I always recommend to folks in a similar position is the graduate assistant route was really important for me. One, it gave me an opportunity to really more fine tune exactly what I wanted to do in the college athletic space, but also to get my master's degree. And to get some real on the job experience. It's one thing to be a student worker, but to be a GA and have some real world responsibilities within the department and be able to interact at a different level were really important for me. And like I said, it also gave me that idea to refine, because did I want to coach? Did I want to go more the administrative path? And so that really helped define that for me. And then as I was coming up on the end of my graduate assistant position, Stoney Brook was in the process of transitioning from Division III to Division I. And at the time was Division II, and in the next couple of years was going to elevate. And so we're starting to invest in new positions, staffing levels. Well, they were creating a brand new position, a full-time ticket manager and assistant business manager position. And as a biology major, didn't have a ton of background really in either one of those, but was fortunate having worked being at my alma mater, that I think they understood my work ethic, my character, and some of those things. So really honestly took a chance on somebody who probably didn't have the full amount of experience, but I think they knew would learn on the job and attack it and try to get better every single day. And so that was really my first entree into college athletics. And again, fortunate it was at my alma mater, a place that I cared a bunch about. But again, was fortunate that people took a chance on me to say, you know what, we think he has the tools, the willingness to come into this industry and work really hard at it. And so really grateful for that first opportunity.
Obviously, over the course of your career, you've seen a lot of changes kind of on the field with the sports, whether name, image, likeness now, the transfer portal, all that sort of stuff. But I want to ask you specifically about the job side, whether it's networking, job searching, the hiring process, recruiting from your perspective, coaches or administrators to come work with you or for you. Has that changed at all from when you first started to where you are now? Have you seen big differences in that side of the industry?
Well, I'm going to say yes and no. I'm going to kind of answer it probably two ways. I think where I would say it hasn't changed as much as our industry has evolved, to me, it still comes down to relationships and the ability to build relationships, whether that's with a recruit, whether it's with their parents, whether it's a fan, an alumni, a donor, people across our industry, other administrators, coaches. To me, those relationships are key to success. If you can't build relationships and communicate the things that you want to see through those relationships, then I think it's going to be really hard to have success. So to me, relationships are still number one, where if we have somebody who's applying for a job, I can reach out to colleagues across the country who maybe have worked with that person before, and I can get a really honest recommendation on those folks. And then again, the same goes through, our ability to have success here from a fundraising perspective. That's through relationships. And so that from that part, I would say it hasn't changed. I think where it has changed a little bit is just the ever growing demands in college athletics. I mean, that's a piece that, you take a great example of, if you went back 15 years ago and we opened up an entry level position, we would probably have, and again, I would say probably any place, you would have probably 150 resumes. Now you post that same position 15 years later, and I'm going to say you're probably going to have 40% to half of that number. And so that the demographic piece has shifted a little bit. And so with a much smaller pool, you have to be way more dialed in. The interview process I would say, is one of the most important things we can do because you're only as good as your people. And so that interview process, when you have a smaller pool now, has to be really dialed in terms of identifying the right people, being able to get them here to NDSU or wherever the institution is, and sell what's great about the institution, what's great about the community, et cetera, but also try to extract from them how they're going to impact in a positive way your program or whatever it might be. And so that's where it's changed a little bit. You used to have this huge pool of folks who are looking to get into the business. And I think it's dialed back a little bit. And I think a lot of that's because of the demands, because of the change, the way athletics has evolved over the course of the last probably 5 or 6 years.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. I mean, you did just kind of say it, but do you think that networking and that relationship is that the most important part when it comes to the whole job process or job search for college athletics?
It really is. And well, whether it's job search or, a lot of times we'll use it. I'll call an AD colleague or somebody else I know and on a particular topic, hey, how are you guys handling this situation? And a lot of times it either reaffirms what we're doing it in a really good way, or maybe there are some things that we can tweak. In our business, if you're staying the same, you're probably going backwards. And so you always have to continue to revolutionize and do things differently and tweaks here and there. And a lot of that comes from having a really good understanding of what's happening across the industry. And a lot of that is through that networking opportunity, going to professional development opportunities when you get a chance, picking up the phone and calling somebody maybe that you don't know, but you've heard about, and maybe there's some like experiences there that can help us be better in what we're trying to do. So yeah, I think networking relationships is critical for success in this industry.
Going back again, kind of towards the beginning, and some of the stuff might be a little redundant, but is there a piece of advice you would tell your younger self when you were first starting out that would have helped you then that you know now, or maybe even somebody trying to break into the industry, a piece of advice that you wish you knew when you were younger?
I think for me, I was so focused on trying to, and again, it's it's a balancing act, right? I want to hire people who are going to come in and they're going to give their all in accomplishing the job that we're asking them to do. And that takes a ton of time and focus and energy. And that was me when I was younger. I really wanted to learn and grow and get better. But sometimes you have to understand, as much as I wasn't looking to leave Stoney Brook at the time, there's so much going on outside of Stoney Brook or whatever the institution that somebody might be at that influence what happens at your institution. And so early on, I would have said having a greater understanding of the national landscape, making sure that I was getting out to conferences and conventions at an earlier age and starting to build some of those relationships. Now, as an entry-level position, probably not going to be making relationships with ADs, but maybe colleagues who we're going to grow together in our industry, and hopefully all someday be ADs or senior level administrators. So that's the one thing I would say, as much as you want to focus and do a really good job at the one you have. And it's not always network is not always about looking for another job, but it's understanding the industry better, seeing what's going on at other places, and just having a good understanding of where the industry is now and where it's going. I probably would have said, as a younger administrator, I could have done a better job there.
Going back to what you said earlier about, when you came to NDSU and the appeal of that university, again, this could serve as advice for those as they look for the right job. But for you, how do you know when it is the right opportunity? What do you look for to know that it's the right opportunity for you?
Well, that's a great question. And one thing, and I recommend this to a lot of people. One of the things that my wife and I did, and this is probably going back about 14, 15 years ago, when I got to a point where I thought I was ready to be an athletic director, I wanted to stay at the Division I level. So you look at the time, there was probably 350 Division I schools. Well, there's certain criteria based on, geography. Where do you want to live? Sports sponsorship levels, level of support in the community or the fan base. Not every job is created equal. Not every job is built for success or set up for success, or at least the opportunity for success. So we put together some criteria that were really important to us as a family and for me as a career standpoint, to say, okay, let's whittle the 350 down to maybe there's 40 or 45 schools that really make sense for Matt Larsen or whoever the person may be. And so then as those jobs become open, then there's opportunities to take a look. And then you also know too, when other jobs open up and maybe somebody reaches out and said, would you be interested? Well, I know the answer to that is no. And I'm not going to waste their time because it doesn't fit into the criteria that we've put together. And so I think that's a really important exercise, whether you're an assistant coach, whether you're a GA, an entry-level position, a director level, whatever it is, looking down the road because then what you start to do is you start to build a profile that's going to allow you to be successful at that next opportunity. You start building your experiences based on where you hope your career path is going to go. And then if you work for folks, and I've been fortunate in my career to have really good mentors who understood kind of my career goals and helped position me, whether that's with additional responsibilities or experiences or whatever it might be, to kind of make sure I was bettering myself and bettering my resume as I move forward in a young career.
Just a couple last ones. People always hate this one because, a lot of people don't like talking about themselves. But for you, what would you say are your most important traits that have allowed you to get to this point in your career?
I think first and foremost, I think sometimes it's overstated or maybe not stated enough, is you have to love this industry. Having passion for the industry is really important. There's, as much as there's challenging days, whether it was at Stoney Brook or NDSU, I still came to work every day knowing I loved this profession and I knew we were making an impact. And so I think that's really important because it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's nights, it's weekends. You're going to miss birthdays potentially for your kids. You're going to miss, those are the things that come with this industry a little bit. And so I think you need to understand that, and your family needs to understand that at some level. And so I think that part is really important. You have to, and really this probably goes for any industry, you have to be passionate about what you're doing, because then you're gonna have the greatest opportunity for success. So I think passion is really important. And I would say, it's again cliche, but you have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work. And I've been fortunate to be at two places where we've had unbelievable success, whether it's in fundraising, whether it's in success on the field or the court or the diamond or whatever it is. those things don't just happen. It comes through a plan. It comes from hard work and being willing to make really tough decisions that are best for the institution. And so hard work is something that I'll always lean back on, because you may have somebody who may not have all the experience, but they're willing to learn and they're willing to put the work in. I'll bet on that person every single day of the week if they're willing to do that. So those two, and then I'll go back to what I said earlier, because I think it's really critical in our profession, is you need to be able to build relationships and communicate. Whether you're an entry-level person, whether you are a senior level person, you need to be able to communicate both ways, and you need to build meaningful relationships, not just passing somebody in the hallway and saying hi, but understanding what makes them tick, understanding the challenges that they have in their current position, and how can I lend support in some of those areas. So those are the three I would say: being passionate about the industry, working hard and understanding what hard work means, but also the ability to communicate and build relationships.
And then lastly, and you can speak frankly, we're not looking for lip service. WinAD has put together a job board called Intercollegiate is their new thing. And it's supposed to be the most in-depth job board. My question for you would be just how valuable, how important is a job board in college athletics, not only for you when you are looking to hire, but obviously for job seekers, or maybe, when you first started out, I don't know what it was like back then, if there were certain job boards, but just in general, the value of a really intensive job board for people that are trying to work in college athletics.
Well, I think they're critical. I mean, I think the days of, and again, not to say that this still doesn't exist, but the days of somebody starting at one institution and staying their whole entire career is probably fewer and far between. And part of that is in our industry, sometimes to be able to elevate to a different position, that means you need to go somewhere else. And so in a lot of ways, athletics can be a little bit of a transient industry. And again, that's not hard and fast rule, but that's just, so having a place where you can readily accessible job opportunities, and with some in-depth information about the institution or about what the job requires. Because that's one of the things I'll always tell people that are looking for jobs, especially if they're coming out of a GA or trying to get jobs. Make sure you read the job description. People are giving you the answers to the test, essentially, of these are the criteria, the skill set we're looking for. So if you're not addressing those in your cover letter or in your resume, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And so really the reason why people put those out there is because they're telling you exactly what they're looking for. And so your resume should not always look the same for every single position. Now, that doesn't mean, make up experiences that you don't have, but cater your resume to the experiences that the position is looking for. So that's going to look really different, maybe from job to job to job. And you're going to want to emphasize certain things. So, but job boards are critical, having one place where you can go, where you can find out where the opportunities are across the country, across the different levels of the NCAA 1, 2, and 3. That's really, really important for just to be able to take a look in a picture of what's out there, what the opportunities are. It's also helped us too, as we've refined some of our job descriptions. You take some from what you see from some other places, and maybe you incorporate some of those things. So if you're not looking at your job descriptions every probably 2 years and refining those and adjusting them based on the evolution of the job, then you're probably missing it a little bit. And so we've utilized that. You see other postings that are out there and the way they categorize certain responsibilities. We've used that as well.